Hi, it's Ursula from ursula-smith.com, and I am going to do an experiment today. So the real thing that I wanted to test was I have a Yupo paper cutout, and then I have an InkAid printout transfer, and I'm trying to find a piece of white paper. So that's kind of what it looks like. It's just kind of a mottled set of blue, kind of not really shapes, something I worked on in Photoshop. It's a little bit light, so I don't know if it's really going to do much. But I wanted to see if I could get the transfer onto the Yupo paper. I had tried it once before, and it did seem like it worked. So this was the only one time that I did it. But then I had something that matched that cutout, and I'm not crazy about the way that came out. And so I was trying to decide, do I want to toss it? Do I want to add some more color to it? And then I thought, oh, well, if I transfer onto the Yupo paper cutout, some of this will go around the cutout, and maybe, I don't know. I think it's probably going to be a big fat old mess, but I figured I would give it a shot. So I am going to do this on camera, and then I have to pause because I'm doing this all with my phone, and the InkAid solution has to sit there for 2 minutes. And so after I do the transfer and the 2 minutes are up, I will be back. But the first thing is, so there's, InkAid has its own YouTube channel, and so there's videos on there how to make the solution and how to use it generally. I don't know that there was anything about Yupo paper. Definitely nothing on Distress Oxides. That's what's on the background. And I'm not sure about doing something like what I'm doing here. But in any event, we're going to give it a shot. So we shall see if the experiment works. So I just have my solution already mixed up and in a jar. And my foam, this may end up being a problem. It looks like my foam paintbrush is not great, and it kind of looks like it's falling apart. So it'll be interesting to see too what happens with the distress background, because you need to paint everything that you want the transfer to work on with the solution. I kind of like it with the solution on it, so that's interesting. And you don't want it too sloppy wet, but you do want it covered and somewhat wet. So then you're going to take your transfer, and the printed side goes down. And you do have to be careful with, I believe, with the Yupo paper, because you don't want the transfer to move. And then, as with the InkAid instructions, you can either tap it with your fingers, you can roll it with a brayer. I tend to use the brayer just because I'm used to like the jelly plate, and I have always kind of done transfers that way. I used to use the DAS system, but I've been playing around with the InkAid because they also sell stuff that you can paint onto substrates and then print directly on, and I really like that, those mediums, and I've done videos on that. So what I'm running into here is I'm not sure it's getting onto the surrounding area because the Yupo paper is kind of keeping the transfer off the background. So this may be a big old hot mess when I go to take this off. So I'm going to pause, go do my timer, and when that is... Okay, so I ended up sticking my heavy iron on top and letting it sit there for the 2 minutes. And so we're going to start to peel up the transfer. Oops. And you really kind of want to go slow, so it looks like it's missed in the middle of the shape. So that is interesting to note, although I guess I just put it back down. Oh, some of it's coming up here. So it did look like most of it came off, if you can see. Let me move this out of the way. So it's pretty clear. So most of that transferred. But it did look, it's kind of missing in the middle of that shape. And I think it's just because that shape kind of took up the space and it couldn't get down onto the other background. And the rest of the background kind of looks messy. So again, I was thinking that it may look like a hot mess, but there's the piece. So you can see some of the strings where it didn't get onto the background and it kind of got onto the shape. But it looks like that just peels off pretty well. Wow, that actually does look kind of cool. So that's the shape. So, oops, sorry. So the shape transferred pretty well. When it looked like initially that maybe it wasn't going to show up at all, it kind of looks like a stonework or something to that effect, which is kind of the look I was going for. So transferring directly onto Yupo looks like it works. And I'm going to let it dry. It seemed like my test case, my first test case, worked pretty well, and the transfer isn't peeling off. So I feel like this works pretty well, and I like the look of it on the shape. Onto the background is a different story. So you get some of that look of texture onto the background, but then the shape in the middle looks weird because it didn't the transfer didn't get into the middle. So this is probably going to be a toss. I don't know that there's really going to be a way to salvage it. Maybe I could come back over with another transfer. But again, at some point you just got to kind of decide, yeah, okay. Or, the other thing I could do, I'm thinking, is I could just cut out that middle piece and turn this into a frame, which that is probably what I will end up doing. So I may be back with the results of that once this has all dried. But if I decide to just toss, then this will be the end of the video. And transferring onto Yupo paper with the InkAid transferees definitely seems to work. So thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time, unless I'm back with a salvage of that other ugly background. So I'm back. I did end up going through and trying to fix the background of the piece that I just did. And what I did with this piece, I cut it out. I'll show you what the remainder looks like. But I wanted to point out, I ended up using Distress spray stains, just plain ones. I spritzed the back of it with Mermaid Lagoon, which is a little bit darker color. Sometimes I do that because it can eke through to the front and stain. And so sometimes I do it from the back. And so that's what I did to kind of try and darken it. And then I went over the front with peeled paint. And so it kind of got rid of all that contrasty look. And I did end up liking the way that it looked. So, you know, you can see that the transfer didn't make it into these places, but that's what darkened up and kind of evened out the whole look. So that's the inside. I'm going to still end up using that. I thought that was going to be a toss away. Here's the background. And so I like it on the blue, but I think I like it on the matching green better. And then, of course, the Yupo paper looks great. And for me, this is a game changer. I can take a Yupo paper cutout, apply the Distress Oxide Resist look on top without having to do coatings and all of the process that I've been doing up until now. So thanks for joining me. See you next time.